To everyone around us, we were the power couple. Emily, my wife, had built a massive following online as a fitness influencer, millions of fans, sponsorship deals, and a squeaky clean brand that revolved around health, discipline, and family-first values. I worked in finance, quietly supporting her from behind the scenes, taking care of our home, managing her contracts, helping edit videos. I never minded the spotlight being on her, until I realized I never really knew who she was. It started with a message. A fan DM'd me anonymously, "You should really check what Emily does when you're working late. It's not what you think." I laughed it off at first. Jealous internet trolls, I thought. But that single message cracked something inside me. I became curious. And then suspicious. What I uncovered shattered my entire world. That I started small, checking her schedule, glancing at her texts when her phone buzzed unattended. At first, everything looked normal. Protein brand collaborations, gym sessions, motivational replies to fans. But then I noticed something strange, a recurring name in her messages. "Jay, great session today, face blowing a kiss, let's meet at the usual spot, he won't suspect anything." My stomach dropped. Emily never mentioned a J. Not once. And that emoji, she never even used those with me anymore. I confronted her casually, pretending to be curious. "Hey, who's Jay? You've been training with someone new?" She blinked, froze for a second too long. "Oh, just a gym buddy. Jason. He helps me with heavy sets. That's all." But I knew she was lying. That night, while she showered, I opened her tablet. She always left it logged in. And what I found? A folder, hidden in her cloud storage. Dozens of private videos. Not workouts. Not fitness content. Videos of her and Jay, in hotel rooms, gym showers, private villas. Her body, her brand, was being used for something entirely different. And it wasn't just betrayal. It was a business. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. Emily and Jay, whose real name, I found out, was Julian, weren't just lovers. They were business partners in a hidden empire. A subscription-based VIP fitness club marketed through encrypted messages to elite clients. Behind the scenes, it offered exclusive content. Not workouts. Not health advice. This wasn't just betrayal, it was fraud. Her whole public image was a front for something else. Something borderline illegal. She had built this with Julian while using my money, my tech setup, even my video editing skills, without me realizing it. I had helped her grow, and she'd used that growth to fuel a lie. The worst part? She was profiting from it. And I was just the clueless husband holding the camera. I could have walked away right there. But I didn't. Instead, I made a copy of the files. And I leaked them. Not to the internet. No. To her sponsors. To her business partners. To her lawyer. What I didn't expect was Julian's reaction. The fallout was immediate. Within 24 hours of the leak, 3 major sponsors dropped Emily. Her brand collapsed like a house of cards. Her social media went dark. Comments flooded in, questions, accusations, fans turning on her. And she had no clue it was me. She came home that evening pale and shaking. "Someone hacked my cloud," she whispered. "They got everything." I pretended to be shocked. Supportive. "You think it was a competitor?" I asked, knowing damn well it was me. But I wasn't prepared for what came next. The doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m. I looked through the peephole and froze. Julian. Tall. Muscular. In a black hoodie. I hadn't seen him in person before, but there was no mistaking him. He looked like he belonged on a UFC poster. I didn't open the door. Instead, I heard his voice through the wood. "You think you're clever," he said, calm, too calm. "You just made a mistake, man. A big one. She was mine long before she was yours. And now you've made this personal." I didn't sleep that night. In the morning, I found my car windows smashed. A knife stuck in the driver's seat. No note, just a single word carved into the dash, "Dead." I reported it to the police, of course. Showed them the dash, the knife, even mentioned Julian by name. But they shrugged. No witnesses, no cameras, no fingerprints. "You've got no proof he did it." I tried to show them the videos, Emily's hidden files, the secret content, but they said unless it involved trafficking or assault, they couldn't act. "Morally questionable isn't always criminal," one officer told me. Julian knew that. He was smart. Careful. And now, he was angry. Emily was spiraling. Her career was ruined, her inbox flooded with threats, from fans, from sponsors demanding explanations, even from legal reps, but she didn't know I was the one who lit the fire. And now I was in too deep to back out. I started noticing things. A car parked outside our house for hours, same model, same plates, every night. My phone ringing with no one on the other end. My emails getting weird sign-in alerts from locations I'd never been. He was watching me. Tracking me. And the worst part? Emily was still texting him. Still loyal to him. Even after everything I exposed. I realized then, I wasn't dealing with just a broken marriage. I was dealing with two people who had nothing left to lose, that if the police wouldn't help me, I had to help myself. I installed cameras, inside, outside, even a dashcam on my new car. I changed every password I had. Started using burner accounts. Bought a second phone. And then I went hunting. I dug deeper into Julian. Found an old LinkedIn under his real name, Julian Mendez. Turns out, he used to be a trainer at a private gym 2 towns over, until he was fired for inappropriate behavior with clients. No charges. Just whispers. A clean enough slate to disappear and reinvent himself. Exactly what he did, with Emily. So I set a trap. I created a fake account under the name Lex, a fitness-obsessed entrepreneur offering big money to sponsor exclusive content. I made sure the account looked real. Hired someone to stage photos, created a fake website, even dropped hints in the same encrypted circles Julian used. I sent one message: "I know what you two are really selling. I'm in, $50,000. But I want a private meet." Julian responded within hours. "Tomorrow night. No games." The location he sent? A storage unit. Isolated. No cameras. That's when I realized, he thought he was setting the trap. But I'd already tipped off someone else. And I had one final surprise waiting for him. The storage unit was in the industrial part of town, dusty, dimly lit, surrounded by fences and silence. I arrived an hour early and parked 2 blocks away, heart hammering. I wasn't alone. Waiting across the street in an unmarked car were 2 private investigators, ex-cops I had hired with the last of my savings. I told them everything. Showed them the threats, the knife, the evidence. They didn't promise justice. But they promised they'd be watching. At 10:03 p.m., Julian showed up. Alone. No Emily. He walked straight into the unit I'd marked. He was carrying something. A black duffel bag. One of the PIs whispered into my earpiece, "He's got a weapon. Could be a bat. Maybe worse." I gave them the signal. I stepped out of hiding and walked directly toward the storage door. My hands were sweating. My legs felt like rubber. But I had to look calm. Julian swung the door open. "Lex?" he asked, confused. That's when I smiled, and the cameras inside clicked on. The PIs stepped forward, badges out. Julian spun, reaching into the bag, but he froze when he saw the red recording light blinking. "We've got everything," I said. "The threats. The videos. Your business. If anything happens to me, this footage goes to everyone." For the first time, Julian looked scared. But not defeated. He stepped back, narrowed his eyes, and said just one thing before vanishing into the night: "You think this is over? You're not safe. She'll make sure of it." He didn't mean himself anymore. He meant Emily. That I returned home that night to find Emily in the kitchen, calm, eerily composed. She looked up from a glass of wine and smiled like nothing was wrong. "You were out late," she said. "Gym session?" I didn't answer. She knew something. I could feel it. The way her eyes lingered too long. The way she touched her phone when I walked in, like checking a trigger. So I asked her directly, "Did you know Julian threatened me? That he came to the house?" Her smile didn't fade. "You've been digging where you shouldn't. That's dangerous." I stood frozen. That wasn't denial. That was a warning. "You were part of it the whole time," I said. "This wasn't just some affair. You were building something, behind my back." She didn't flinch. "You were always too soft. Too trusting. You thought you were helping me build a brand. But you were just helping me disappear into someone else's empire." I felt sick. Everything, the years, the love, the life we built, it was all a role to her. "And now?" I asked. She leaned in close, her voice low and sharp. "Now you're a liability. But you're not worth prison. So if I were you, I'd leave before you end up buried under the weight of your own obsession." She knew I recorded Julian. She wanted me to. Because now, she could claim she was the victim, and I was the blackmailer. I was trapped. Unless I did something drastic, the next morning, I was gone. Not just from the house, but from my name, my bank, my city. I'd emptied my accounts overnight, wiped my devices, and left everything behind. But not before delivering my final move. I sent one package. Inside was a flash drive, containing every file, every video, every encrypted message Emily and Julian ever shared. But it wasn't addressed to a lawyer, or a tabloid. It went straight to Emily's biggest brand sponsor, Unravels Fitness, the company that had made her a millionaire and crafted her image into gold. And I made sure to include one final note: she didn't build your brand. She used it to hide something darker. You have 24 hours to choose whether you're part of it, or expose her before she exposes you. By nightfall, Emily's name was trending, for all the wrong reasons. #FitnessFraudQueen. Her Instagram vanished. The brand dropped her with a brutal public statement: Unravels was deceived. We do not condone hidden adult content or threats against former partners. We have terminated all ties. I watched it all unfold from a cheap motel room 300 miles away. And then I got a text from an unknown number. It simply said, "That was clever. But this isn't over. You exposed her, now she has nothing left to lose." Julian was gone. Emily was ruined. And I was finally free. Or so I thought. Months passed. I changed my name. Moved to a small town. Got a quiet job at a local hardware store where no one knew who I was or who I used to be. For a while, the silence felt like peace. But peace has a way of disguising itself as a ticking clock. One morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Inside, just a single photo. It was me. Walking home from work. Looking over my shoulder. Taken the day before. On the back, scrawled in faint red ink, "Still think you won." I stared at it for hours. Julian was gone. Emily had vanished from the internet. But someone, maybe both of them, was still out there. Watching. Waiting. Because when you tear apart someone's empire, you don't just break their heart, you destroy the mask they lived behind. And people like that? They don't forgive. They don't forget. So I sleep with the lights on. I check the locks 3 times. And every time I hear footsteps behind me, I wonder if it's the day she finally comes to finish what I started that I wasn't going to respond. That's what I told myself every day after receiving the photo. But paranoia has a voice, and it never whispers. I started scanning the crowd when I left work. Changing my route home. Double-checking every car that idled too long at a stop sign. The fear I thought I'd escaped had only evolved into something quieter, more methodical. Then, 2 weeks later, I got the second package. Inside, a USB drive. No name. No instructions. Just a handwritten note, play it. Or someone else will. I should have thrown it away. But I didn't. I drove 2 towns over, borrowed a public library computer, and plugged it in. The screen flickered. Then, a video. Emily. She looked different. Skinnier. Hollow. Eyes dark, voice flat. She sat in a cheap motel room, staring into the camera. You destroyed everything. You think that makes you right? All you ever wanted was control. You got it, so now what? You hiding? You watching your back every day? Good. Because you made me into a ghost, and ghosts never sleep. She leaned forward, whispered something I'll never forget, you don't have to worry about Julian anymore. Then the screen went black. No explanation. Just silence. Was it a threat? A confession? Or a warning? I didn't know then. But I'd soon find out that I couldn't shake the last word she said, you don't have to worry about Julian anymore. What did that mean? Did she kill him? Did someone else? Was it a lie to pull me out of hiding? I had to know. I called one of the private investigators, the only person from my old life I still trusted. He agreed to dig quietly. A week later, he called me. His voice was tense, Julian's dead. Found in a burned-out warehouse 2 months ago. No ID, but dental records matched. Authorities ruled it arson, possibly intentional. I felt a wave of cold. It wasn't over. Emily had cut the final tie to her past, and now, she was truly alone. Untraceable. Unstoppable. Later that night, I found a third envelope. Inside was a single, chilling item, a plane ticket. One way. In my name. To a city I'd never been to. With a date, just 2 days away. And under the ticket, a note, let's finish what you started. Come alone. Or I'll come for you. There were no threats. No curses. Just calm, deliberate handwriting. And that's when I realized something terrifying, this was never about revenge. It was a game. And now, it was her turn to move. I stared at the ticket for a long time. Then, slowly, I picked up my bag, and started packing that I arrived at the airport 2 hours early. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't bring my phone. Just the ticket, a backpack, and enough nerves to light a city on fire. Every moment felt like a trap. Every passing face, a threat. Gate 17. That's what the ticket said. The destination? A remote island off the coast of Belize, one barely marked on the map. I googled it at the library before coming. No hotels. No tourism. Just old military ruins and a private airstrip. Why there? Why me? As I approached the gate, a man in a black suit stepped in front of me. No badge. No name. But he handed me something, a burner phone, powered on. The screen blinked. One new message from, unknown, good. You came. I wasn't sure if you'd grown too comfortable in hiding. But don't worry. Everything that comes next will be the truth. This is your final test. I looked up, ready to question the man, but he was already gone. Just vanished. My flight was boarding. And I was walking toward it. Because I needed to know. Not just what she planned. But why she picked me in the first place. The flight was silent. Just 5 passengers. No chatter. No questions. Just ocean below, and tension thick enough to taste. We landed on a crumbling runway surrounded by jungle. No airport. No lights. Just a single jeep waiting at the edge of the strip, engine running. The driver didn't speak. Just handed me a blindfold. I hesitated. Then put it on. 20 minutes of silence followed. I counted every bump in the road, every sharp turn, every breath. When the vehicle stopped, the door opened, and I was guided forward. Then, into a room. Cool air. Marble floors. High ceilings. This wasn't a ruin. This was wealth. Hidden wealth. Then I heard her voice. You finally made it. I pulled the blindfold off. There she was. Emily. Standing at the head of a long table, dressed in white. Calm. Regal. Changed. I brought you here, she said, because you deserve the truth. I looked around. Cameras. Not security, production. Lights. Microphones. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was a setup. You exposed my empire. Destroyed my name. Took away everything I built. And now. I'm going to rebuild it, with you. I laughed. You think I'd help you? She smiled. You already are. Behind me, a door slammed shut. Locked. Monitors lit up. They were broadcasting. Live. To who, I didn't know. But she whispered one last line into the camera, let's see if betrayal still sells. The lights blazed. Cameras rolled. I stood in the center of what looked like a twisted talk show set, half confessional, half interrogation chamber. Emily circled me like a producer and a predator. You took everything from me, she said to the camera. So I brought him here to tell his side. Let's hear the hero explain how he exposed the woman who built him. I stayed silent. Then, she played the first video, of me. Secretly recording her. Copying files. Leaking them. Her voice narrated the footage like a documentary. You see, he wasn't a victim. He was an addict. Addicted to control, to the power of the truth. And in the end, he became worse than me. She wasn't trying to hurt me physically. She was flipping the narrative. Turning me into the villain, on camera. Streaming to her rebuilt private audience, investors, followers, even media. It was her comeback. I reached for the nearest mic, looked straight at the lens. And I did the one thing she didn't expect. I smiled. You're right, I said. I exposed you. I destroyed you. And I'll do it again. Because this, right here, is proof that you never cared about truth, or fitness, or love. You cared about control. I pulled out the second phone hidden in my sock. Already live. Already recording. Broadcasting her uncut footage to every outlet I could route it to, newsrooms, lawyers, sponsors, YouTube, Reddit. Her face changed. The mask cracked. She lunged for me, screaming, not staged. But it was too late. Everything went black. 3 weeks later, headlines read, disgraced fitness mogul Emily Taylor arrested on island compound, former husband triggers global leak. I was free. For real this time. And she? She finally faced the truth. Not the one she created, but the one she couldn't control.